Hi everyone, welcome to the Paint It Simply channel. This is the newer channel that it's been around for a while, but we're going to change this channel into where I come to you and present a lot of beginning lessons. I'm also going to show some advanced lessons, like right after this lesson where I'm going to show painting roses on a tray, because I want you to see where you can go, okay? So but I will always say in the description when it's a beginning lesson. And today we're going to do a beginning lesson. I'm going to start out with, first let's talk about the paints. This is the Paint It Simply palette. There are 6 colors in the Paint It Simply palette, and I have over 500 lessons in the Paint It Simply palette with using just these 6 colors. And so what they are is black, phthalo blue, the red violet, naphtha red light, Hansa yellow, and white. And you can get these on Amazon. You can get them on our online store. All the links are in the video description for everything that you want. These are a color. It's made by Jansen Art. These are a color that I formulated because I started out back in 1983 as a paint chemist. And I started out making paint and then started becoming an artist after that. But I formulated these particular paints about 16 years ago after we had a lot of advancements in acrylics, so they can do a lot. Now, right off the bat, not all acrylics, guys, are the same, okay? These are what we call glycol-based acrylics. They use this inside the paint, which is an extender medium. It's a non-toxic. Everything is non-toxic. And this will slow down the drying time of the paint. So instead of using water, you use it, and it slows down the drying time of the paint. And over the course of all of these lessons, I'm going to show you everything that you can do with the extender. And also open medium. This is open medium. Matisse, Dervan Matisse, they manufacture these particular paints for us in Australia, and they manufacture our formula. So they're a wonderful company. We've worked with them for a very, very long time. But they have certain mediums in some of their acrylic lines that work very, very well with ours. And their lines and our lines are pretty much compatible. Okay, let's get into some painting. So these are boards. I like to use these. This is just an MDF board. You can also get what is called a hardboard. I'll put links and stuff in the video description. You can go get these on Dick Blick. You can go on Amazon, put in artist hardboard, and you can buy them in a variety of shape. This one is 14 inches this way, 11 inches this way. They're just a couple dollars. And then what I do is I give the board one very light coat of this stuff. This is called canvas prep medium. Canvas prep medium can be used on canvas and wood. It leaves a matte surface, which is what I like. I like a matte surface. I do not use gessos. A lot of gessos contain vinyl in it, and that vinyl actually repels some of the acrylic, causing it to bead up. I like a matte surface so I can do what's called granulated techniques, which I'll show you later. So we developed this canvas prep medium that preps the surface. You just need a light coat, and then you sand it lightly with 180-degree sandpaper. Just sand it lightly with 180-degree sandpaper, and off you go. And I will make very specific videos on all of the products, how to prep boards, what boards I use, and all that kind of stuff in other videos into the future, okay? So you'll be able to look to the channel and find those very specific videos, okay? So look through the channel for that. Okay, so I prepped it with that, and I'm ready to go. Now, when I paint, I'm painting down. So the camera's up above me and I'm painting down. When I paint down, like I'm painting on a table, I have a slight incline here. And and I like to put a towel down, paint towel, so my board doesn't move around on me. And when I paint down, I use the short handle brushes because this puts me real close to the work, and I really like short handle brushes when I'm painting down. When I'm painting at an easel, like right here, I'm working on a hawk right there, I use the long handle brushes. This allows me to get back. It allows me to paint actually a little more casual than I can going down. When do I do, paint going down as opposed to painting on the easel? When I want to get really casual, I paint on the easel. And so for the last couple of years, I've been working on my casual techniques as an artist. And so I've been doing a lot of easel painting. If you go back through our channels, say 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, you'll see I did a lot of down painting. But I've since then switched to try to do a little bit of both. So I'm going to show you painting down because this is how I want you to study, okay? So I'm going to paint a rose with you, a simple rose. And then after this video, I'm going to go over, I have a tray right over there. I'm going to paint a entire tray of roses. And you beginners, you can just watch how I develop it and you can see where you're going to go, okay? All right. So when I paint roses and stuff, I use filberts and I use flats. These are 2 flats, a number 10 and a number 8. We manufacture these. You'll see it's made by Jansen Art. This is a special brush. It is a very, very soft brush. It emulates a squirrel hair, so it's really, really soft. And especially with a lot of acrylic techniques, I like to use a real soft brush. I will use bristles and I will use synthetics, but on these particular roses, I like a softer brush. Okay. So let's just paint something here, okay? And when you're going to paint these roses, guys, it's going to take practice. I always tell all my students and stuff, you're looking at a minimum of 25 to 50 roses just to get it into your brain where you're going to go. And I have lots of beginning lessons on this channel and onto the other channel, our main channel. We'll try to get, I'm going to try to get lots of them here. So you practice and you practice and you practice and you will become a beautiful rose painter, but it's not going to come overnight. It's going to take some practice, okay? So let's go on. Now, so what I'm going to do with you first right now is an acrylic rose. I'm going to use maybe a little bit of extender. I'll show you. But I want you to learn how to control values in your acrylics. And you can paint with oils, you can paint with acrylics, but the beautiful thing about acrylics is I can use them wet and wet, or I can use them dry. And I'm going to show you how to use them dry, okay? And maybe a little bit of extender. But we're not going to worry about it drying up. That's what I want to think. That's one of the biggest problems. Everyone worries about it drying up. And it doesn't bother us if we switch to a different technique, and I'll show you that. So first, let's just put some color down here, okay? And if you want, you can just take a palette knife. These are the Liquitex number 5 knives. I like these. I use these for everything. Let's just make a kind of a brownish orange. So you take your natural red light, you take some yellow here, and mix that up, starts to make an orange, a little bit of black in it. And this will start to make almost those burnt sienna type colors, which is one of my favorite type colors. I like this one, a little more black into that. I love this color, rich color. And I use this, like a brown. In the Painted Simply, if you go over, we'll put links and stuff to our page that explains. Over on our Jansen Art Studio website, there's a supplies page, and then there's a color page for Painted Simply. You go to that website and you'll see I show you how to mix lots of different colors with this 6-color set, with these 6 colors. How to make all kinds of colors, okay? So you can use that to help you get some nice variations. I'm also going to make just a little bit of a greenish version of it here, right here, because I like that. So what is green? Blues, yellows. The olive greens come from black and yellows here, but I can just make some nice green colors into this brown. These are real pretty colors. Now I'm going to use just water. So I have a container right here of water, and I'm just going to set that off to the side, and I'm just going to put down some color. And this is the way I like to do it. So I'm going to paint a rose right here, and so I'm taking a 3/4 inch fusion brush, and I'm just going to push it down like this. Now, one of the things I love to do, let me put a little green right in through here. We'll make a little explosion of color. Now, and you look at that and you go, okay, I've lost my mind. No, I haven't. Let me show you. I love to take a paper towel, and I'll take that paper towel, I'll put a little bit of water in it, and I use this to kind of manipulate the color around. I love, and I can put a soft color like this over the whole background if I want to move this around. I like to make backgrounds that have movement and energy. Sometimes I use my knife like this. You'll see me make all different kinds of backgrounds. And I love to play with backgrounds, do different things with the backgrounds. So we'll just move some of this around here like this. I love that green right there. And so I can push the color in like this, and then I can soften it. And I love impressionism. I like, what does they call it? Let's call it, it's almost a painterly realism. That's what one of the other artists in the wildlife called it. He said what he does is painterly realism, and I like that term. But see, I can take some of this water in my paper towel, leave it a little dirty here, and I can pull back down and reveal some if I want, soften some out, push some light. So I can do all different kinds of things here or manipulate it around. And the heritage paint is designed to do this for several minutes, 20 minutes or so. You can do this very easily on this surface. And it's one reason why I like the matte surface, is that I can push color around like this really easy, and it sticks. I'm going to make a little bit more of a green here, so a little yellow, and I want a bit of the green back behind this that will emulate some of the leaves and stuff like that. So it's just a real pretty, and I like this, and I like this explosion of color. You can soften it out. I could take this if I wanted to soften it out even more, put a little bit of these other colors, play with your backgrounds. These are nice, but you're using it as an acrylic here, so it's going to, because I didn't add any of this, it's going to dry up real fast. But as it dries, because all it has in there is a little bit of extender and water, but as it dries, you can use your paper towel. See, I can just come back and soften through that again, like this, soften through some of that, just lightly with the water. The water will, in the paper towel, will slowly reactivate it, and I can smooth it out a little bit if I want to, push a little bit more. I love to leave it, like when I do backgrounds like this, I love to leave it really rough. Now, if you want to blend it, then you add some of this to it and it'll stay wet and you can soften it out. I don't like the blended look. I don't like it too smooth. I like this roughness, which will come in here and make our flower look magnificent. So it really, really does. So I'm going to take maybe a little bit of our orange kind of color, yellow and red here, maybe just a bit of that brown to tone it down a bit, and put in some color. I might use this into the rose. So I'll put some of this right into the background here as well. So you see these explosions of color, and you just try all different kinds of things. Okay. So, and if you want all of that to soften up, if you don't like that much contrast into the colors, add white to them and they will get really, really soft, okay? Because the white will tend to cloud the color, lighten its value, and it gets quite a bit softer, okay? Matter of fact, let me show you that. Well, if I take this color here and I add some whites right into here, see how that gets it cloudy looking right there and soft? Cloudy, soft, or gray, and you can push a gray like this into the background, and that starts to soften it out. See how it softens that color out? Okay, I don't always like that. I like a lot of contrast, but you see I can take this and even just soften all of this back. And so you got to remember that about white in your backgrounds. White into your backgrounds will soften everything. But I like a little bit of movement and stuff into it, and some of this stuff to go through. So I like to do this. I like the paper towel and the water to eat through the paint a bit. And I like this movement of color here through the painting. And it looks really, really rough right now. I like it to look rough because that's what I like. That's the impressionism and stuff that I like. But when I go to add these roses, it's all going to calm down. Okay, so I like this. I sit there with a lot of my backgrounds and I play and I play and I play and I try all different kinds of things. But this is what I like, is this this washing of the background. And we're going to be able to really soften that out a little bit later on if we want to, and I'll show you. Okay, so I'm going to put that 3/4 away for a minute, and I'm going to go to my number 10. So you have a background, and you can paint this on a white, you can do anything with it. What is a rose? A rose is a set of 3 circles. You've heard me say this on all our beginning lessons for a number of years. And so I'm going to take just take a little white into some of our grade colors here, even some of these oranges and all this kind of stuff. Some of your background colors. So it's not white. See how I take it down, I gray it down. And let's just put on a circle here. Let's do a rose. Let's just make it. And I don't like anyone to make a rose bigger than their fist, okay? Because your hand has to turn inside this circle, and so you want one no bigger than your fist, okay? So I'm going to take some of this light, and I'm just going to, we'll push a casual circle here. I'm using just water. It's going to dry up really fast. I'll blur out the edges. This is what I call blurring out the edges, right? Okay? All right. So now, what is a rose? A rose is a set of 3 circles. So what I do first is this is my circle of my rose, and you can have a little more, like right up in here and to the front if you want. It can be uneven, it can be all mottled up like that. Doesn't make a difference. Now, what really makes the rose is the center, and so what I do is I envision this circle into 3 circles. So there's the outside is 1. The inside, which is going to be right in here, is the bowl of the rose. Do not make it too small. You want to keep it pretty much open. And then about halfway between here and here, somewhere in here, is going to be what we call the bowl of the rose. So this is the inside of the rose. This is the bowl of the rose. These are your outside petals of your rose, where your rose is going to go, where the petals are going to go. So when I go to paint this rose, now you can, if you're worried about your acrylics drying, you can just dip into a little bit of the extender, and that will keep them wet longer. But I want you to learn how to paint with acrylic too. It's going to dry, but we're going to be using a lot of techniques called halftones and everything to make it soften out, okay? So you don't need to worry about it. But let's just take a dark violet like this. We'll put it right on the side of our brush, right? Maybe add a little bit of the orange or something into it, the brush, like this, right into the brush. And then let's touch into a little dark violet right here, heavier on the side. See how it's heavier on one side, right? And I'm going to take that darker side right down here towards the throat. That's what I consider the throat of the rose, right down here. And I'm going to make a small little circle right in here. And then as I come up, I lift the pressure, I lighten the pressure on the brush, and this gets lighter and lighter. And I'm circling up like this. I can circle many different times right up there like that. And I start to make you get the impression of the petals. Does that make sense? So, and that's because I leave this on the little edge. So you touch down into the center, and then you just come up a little bigger, a little bigger, a little bigger, and the paint runs out and the brush gets softer and softer. And so the darkest color is down in the center. I can come back here, pick up a little bit more of that violet and make it a little darker in the center if I want. And if I go over this, I start to smooth it out. Do you see that? I start to smooth it out. I don't always like to smooth it out, but you start to do that. Now, let's take some of this shadow here. And this is getting a little tacky here. So what I usually like to do just with water is I'll put out some little sprinkles of water right on the palette here. And I just touch the corner of my brush into the water. This is working as an acrylic, okay? And it's gonna dry, but it doesn't hurt us to dry it. So I'm gonna put on the bowl of the rose. Now, when I first started this, I started the bowl all the way around like this. And I made a lot of videos that way, making it like that. And then I realized, well, the bowl, if I'm going to bring in light right this way, the bowl really should be lighter up at the top. So I start to make it lighter up at the top up there. Now, how do you do that? Well, I can take my brush here, pinch wipe it, get rid of some of that violet that's there. I'll just add a little moisture, a little bit of water, go back to my softer color that's up here. And you see how this starts to dry? This is acrylic, it starts to dry. But water will reactivate it. And this is what the Heritage does. Water reactivates it for a little bit. But I can come in here and start to work this a little bit lighter right there. And I love to do this, push with my fingers. And so now what I like to do is keep the darker color at the bottom, lighter color at the top. So I might even expand a little bit more, push out, just kind of push a little dark right out to here. So what I do in more advanced roses is I work the darks down like this, heavier to the bottom, and leave a light side and a shadow side to the rose. And you can push your fingers like this, take it out. So now I have a shadow side and a light side there to the rose. You see that? Okay. So basically that is your rose. Now all you have to do is put petals on it or add some other colors. I'm going to pinch wipe this, and I won't use, I keep wanting to touch into that. I won't. I'll just touch into some water here. Let's take a little bit of our orange, but you can. If you get frustrated, go touch into that stuff, and it'll slow it down and you'll have an easier time. But I want you not to be afraid of acrylic. I'm an acrylic artist. I started out in all this as an oil artist, and then I went to acrylics, and for years I fought the acrylics. But now I have no fear of the acrylics. I love them. I'm going to make a light orange color here. And I'm going to put a little bit of orange through this rose, right up through here. Just like that. I love that. That's just a real pretty orange and violet, right? Okay. Now, this orange, and again, it's going to dry on it, right? It's going to dry. Let's just add a few more little sprinkles here. And I am going to paint this. I'm going to start to lighten this up. I'm going to take a lighter color here. And let's just do this. Let's just put a lighter color. And my next stroke is, so I have three parts. I have the center and the bottom of the bowl, right? And I have all this messy color everywhere right in here, right? And so what I like to do, the first mark that I like to make is usually right at the top of the bowl, right here. I'll make a mark like this. Now, see how the bowl curves around? I have to curve around here to fit that in there. Does that make sense? I have to curve that around. Now, how do you soften that? How do you soften that right in there? Well, an acrylic artist, matter of fact, I'll talk here for a second and let that dry up, and I'll show you. In an oil artist, and if we use an extender, an extended technique, we could blend that out. You could work that, soften that out, do what I call incorporate the colors. And I do that. You'll watch me paint a tray, and I'll do that with the tray. But as an acrylic painter, I can't always do that. So I have a couple of ways to do it. One, and you can see it starting to dry up. The way I like to do is, this was my light color. This was my base. I come right in between the two with what I call a halftone. And I drop a halftone in there. And if I keep going towards my darks here, I can soften that out even more. So you see, I can draw that in there just like that and soften that out as much as I want to soften that out by working my values here, okay? So that's how I like to do it. That's my favorite way to do it. So if I want to come over here to the shadow side, I'm going to reach over here, make this a little darker, maybe put a little bit of the shadow here. As I come down towards that violet, I might pick up a little bit of the violet, a little bit of water, and just come in here like this with a halftone. Just boom, right in there like that, and soften that out. And I on this particular rose, I want to see a little more orange into it. So right into this area here, I'm going to add a little more orange here. So I'll add a little bit more orange. Just add it right in there. And I can push this around and stuff. But you see all those colors that I start to make in there? Those are real pretty. Maybe I want to push a little orange up here, soften that back there a bit. I like color. I like the flower to not just be white. I like it to have color. So let's take, like up on the warm side here, let's add a little water to it, and let's work this up here and maybe down a bit and get that little bit of yellow in there. That's kind of pretty. So we got a basically a warm to a cool. Now you can add a little more white. I don't like to go pure white, but let's just make a lighter color here. Just tap it in, make a lighter color. You can come back, lighten up, build this, right? I'll come back with some darker right along the edge there. And so what I'm doing is I'm building color. Does that make sense? I'm building it. And I'm watching values. So here I'm very light. Inside here I'm very dark. If I want to go more orange, I want my orange darker inside there. Does that make sense? Might even add a little bit of the violet. So if I want to have any kind of orange inside here, back in here, I will darken it down and move right into that violet there, and I will maybe just pick up some more violet and stroke it back the other way. And you can see I add the colors here to that, and you can get even more depth into your rose. And so what you're doing, what you're really doing is you're putting on a base or an undercoat and then working it back and forth. Does that make sense? Now, this is a very, very hard one to paint this way because I'm painting in acrylic. And in just a very short time, in very few minutes, everything dries up. But I want to show you, don't be afraid of it drying up because we can change it, okay? And this is why I want to show you. Now, there's other ones I'll show you that'll be a lot easier because we'll paint it extended so you'll have more time to play with it. But this dries up pretty fast. So look at the colors that are in that rose. See, it's pretty. And I look for variation, maybe a little more yellow orange right down through here. I'll just stroke it on. And if I want to blend that, if I want to soften that out, I can. I rinse my brush. Rinse your brush in your water till your brush is pretty clean, right? And then just take a little bit of water. It doesn't take much. So I tap it on my paper towel. A little bit of water. Now watch what happens. I can run this very light with this fusion brush over it, and I can blend it. See how I can soften that out and blend it? So if you want to blend it, you can blend it like this, right? I can soften this in and blend that. So the acrylic is designed to use water for at least a good hour, 2 hours, 30, depending on how much heat you have in here. But you can do that for hours, really, for several hours, and blend like that on it and soften that out. So I'm using an acrylic. I have not used any of the super mediums that we have to extend its drying time, right? Okay, so now as you can see, this is dry. See how this is dry right here, right? But see, this is the heritage. Not that. That's extender. I knew I was going to do that. I'm going to take my finger with a little water and watch what happens. See, I can reconstitute that paint. This is what I'm talking about. When you're painting acrylic and you want to blend something, you go back with water. Does that make sense? Water reactivates it. Okay. So let's come out here and let's add some more fun things here. Let's add some lighter petals. So we'll go right into our orange here, a little light. Let's add a white. Let's take this rose a little bit more white. Now, what I envision is where the calyx comes in, and I pull from my outer circle right there, right in towards that. And if the brush starts to drag a little bit, what I do is I add a little bit of water to it. So my paint smooths out. Now, what I like to do, so that's really harsh, and everyone goes, but how do you soften that? How do you soften that? What's the key? Let's put some more up here, and then we'll go back and soften it. So now, next petal comes in, and I head right towards that calyx, right? But I'm following what's happening in my circle. Does that make sense? here. Now back here, I like it to go a little more transparent, which means I like it to have a little more water in it, and I like the rose to soften out. So I use the paint a little thinner. But look at that. See, that's not smooth. That's not blended out. You're just thinking right now, I don't know how to paint a rose. Because I'm painting acrylic, that's going to dry, and I'm letting it dry here for a few minutes. And how do I go about softening that? Well, get rid of the color in your brush, right? So put the petals on, get rid of the color in your brush, take just some water, just a little bit of water, and just soften right into it, right like that, and blend those together. Boom, just like that. See, soften that color out there. I can soften this all the way out to there, take that color out, soften those around. I can pick up, this is where I like to pick up a little bit of light on the edge and maybe redraw that edge after I've softened it out. So I just take that edge, just like that, and I draw the edge of that petal around just like that. And I love to do it that way, draw those petals and stuff in like that. And so the rose softens out. Maybe I want to put a little more yellow in there. And this is the beautiful thing. And I want you just to practice this. What I want you to do when you're doing this, I'll show you all kinds of ways, guys. But I've been teaching like this for over 40 years. And I discovered that if I take you into extenders and stuff like that first, you will use that as a crutch and you will never truly learn how to do it acrylic. So we're going to start out with the most difficult way there is, the acrylic, and learn how to handle the acrylics and learn how to create what we call halftones, softening those out. And then when we start adding extenders, you're going to go, wow, this works so much easier and better, okay? And so because you're used to doing it really a little bit harder. Does that make sense? And so you're going to see the beauty of the extenders. So I'm going to put a little bit of the yellow in there, a little more yellow, maybe just a little more yellow orange right up in here. So I'm just going to push that in, right in there like that. Let's actually add a little more orange right down in there. And how do I soften all of those colors together? With water, right? I'll just take a little bit of water, hit those edges, and see, I can blend those out just with the water. And I'm going to take a little edge of the light here and maybe just pull in. Let's do this like a secondary petal right there like that. We'll let it hit some of that wet orange that's right there and soften out a bit. Pick up just those edges and soften out. A little more white right up here. Bring in a bit bigger, lighter edge right up there. Makes a pretty rose, see? And I can soften, I can put some more dark in there if I wanted to, okay? Let's do this. Let's take a little bit of our red and red violet right in here, which is the bottom part of our rose. Let's put that on. Just go boom, like that, right? Don't be afraid of it. I want you to try this and learn how to use the acrylics. What's your soften? Take some water and just soften through that. You can even use, like you'll see me on several videos, use my fingers and soften through. Use the water to soften through. Learn how to use the water, because when we go to the other mediums, you're really gonna learn how to use them, right? Let's put a little more bright orange. Learning how to incorporate colors. Let's put a little more bright orange in there. That just works so well. I'll just tap some of that around, right? Now let's just take some of this color, maybe a little bit of light in it, a little bit of red into it. Down over here is the other side of the rose, and I want it to be softer, darker. So I'll just tap some of that around in there like that, right? Just tap some of that around, some cooler color, and I'll come over here and I'll add a little more white into this cooler, not quite as light, and I'll just pull in, and you see, here's my cake, where my stem's going to be, right? So all of these are heading, and sometimes I'll pull out, but they're all heading down towards that stem. Does that make sense? And I'm just letting that white just run right out of my brush, right in there. And so it's actually a little darker over onto this side. So I'll pull some of these petals in like this, change their shape a little bit. If you want to get a little more dark, you can put that on. How do you soften it out? Just take a little water, run right through it, soften it out, right? Just like that, if you want to keep that darker in there. I want to go lighter and yellow up into the front here. So I'm going to take some of my yellow, some of my red. I will add some of my white right up in here. Nice soft light color. And I'm going to start building the bowl. Now my bowl shadow is right in there. So I come right down to there and I stop. I do not go into my bowl shadow, right? If you lose your shadow, you just do what we call restate it. You'll hear me say that a lot. Just take some shadow color and restate your bowl again. Just put it back in. And then take your light color and pull down into the bowl. But stop. And you can, how do you soften some of that in there? How do you soften it? Rinse your brush, right? Don't be afraid of it drying because the water will reactivate the heritage. It will not reactivate all acrylics, but it will reactivate heritage because heritage is designed to do this. Does that make sense? I designed it for this. So now I'll take the water, just water in my brush, and I'll just pull right down through the bowl. And I'll set that bowl right back down on here. Let's just pull down, maybe pull this one down, just a little bit of water. And I'll reset that in there, see? Real nice, soft. I can reset a nice light little edge on this petal right here, right into that. Don't pull too much to the bowl. Somewhere in here, I'm going to go more white, a little bit of my orange, more white, and build up a bigger petal right here. That's how I like to kind of finish off my roses. And of course, I pulled down too far from the bowl. Oh no, just rinse your brush. Okay, rinse your brush. Rinse it really well. Take your water, okay, and just pull the bowl. Boom, and there comes your bowl back. Maybe take a little edge, just a little bit, and an edge, and you can draw that top petal up there a little softer, or however you want. You can take a little bit more of a white, because I haven't gone to pure white yet. So you can take white, little softer white here, and pull this petal in just a little bit, stopping from the bowl. Don't go into the bowl, right? And so I can start to reshape my rose here. This petal pulls down a bit, so I just do it again. Reshape that in there, and I start to build a beautiful rose. And all of the little strokes, I start to leave them. Let's bring this petal up a little bit more. Maybe this comes in right in here like that. That becomes a pretty rose. See how I use my brush on its edge, and I use this to just basically very lightly draw the petal, see? But water's in there softening it. So if I want to come in here, I'm just going to take a little bit of water, a little bit of my red violet, a little bit of my orange, maybe a tiny bit of the light, and I'm just going to push a little bit of light over here because this is the shadow side of the rose. Does that make sense? And the shadow sides of the rose, I really like them to fade away to almost nothing. But sometimes I'll do this. Sometimes I'll take just a tiny little bit and just draw out the idea right there of some petals coming out. That's all it really needs on that side. Just the idea. And if I get them too big or too much, I rinse my brush and make sure you don't have too much water and just draw through it. See how it softens it out. Boom, there it goes softer again. I can, if I decide I need a deeper shadow, I want a deeper shadow. How do you put a deeper shadow in there? Well, just put a deeper shadow in there, right? And you haven't messed anything up because just rinse that color out of your brush now and and everything in here is soft and will blend with the water. She'll just pull through it with the water. Now, this does not work with all acrylics because not all acrylics are designed to do that. Does that make sense, guys? So, a lot of people say, well, I can't get my acrylics to do that. Well, you're using an acrylic that's not designed to do it. These techniques that I show you are all based on the heritage. And the heritage is designed, I'm showing you, not how to paint with all acrylics, how to paint with a heritage acrylic. So here I'll just take a little bit lighter and just pull a few little marks, maybe a little bit of that bowl there. But I can do this too. See, I can take a little bit of that color and just lightly restroke the bowl if I want to see that bowl again, right? So now you see the bowl again. And I can take a little soft water here, just a little bit, and incorporate it, soften it in, that shadow right back into the rose. Now see, all those marks that I made on this rose makes your rose look really, really fluffy. So I painted some of these petals a lot, 4, 5, 6 times. And each one of those slightly different color, and they get softer and fluffier. If you just want to, as you're starting out, put on a simple bowl of a rose and then just put on a mark and then practice, let it start to dry up a little bit and practice taking some water and smoothing it out. Maybe some water and some different colors here to smooth it out. You'll get a beautiful rose. I like to take some of my background colors into some water here, into some of my color that I have here. And I always like to take a little bit of the background color into something that you see out here, into the roses to soften them a little bit more. That's what we call harmony. You're going to see me talk about harmony all the time. But see that pretty color in there. And then I can add a little bit of white, soft, not pure white, but a little bit of white right on the edge. And I can come back in and just kind of redraw some of those petals, a little different petal, and really soften up and pretty up that rose. See? But so the stem goes in here. So if I'm going to set a stem here, which I like to set a stem, let's get a dark color, dark red, brown. Brown is 2 parts red and 1 part black. But if I want kind of a brownish kind of stem in here, something like that, to put into this rose, you can, if you like the rose and you like everything that's going on and you wanted to smooth some of this stuff out here, you can do what we call negative paint. Take some of the rose colors out here into the background and start to soften some of that out, right? I like to do all different kinds of things. I play with them. And I love to play with Impressionism, which does a lot more to the, I leave bolder strokes of color in Impressionism, but I will do this. You'll see, we'll talk about this. This is called negative painting. I'll show you guys all kinds of techniques. What I've got to do is get you comfortable with acrylics, not to fear that the acrylics are going to dry. And that's the biggest thing. Everyone is afraid of acrylics, that they're going to dry. They're not going to dry. They are going to dry, but the heritage is designed so a couple of hours you can do this kind of stuff. Let's put a little bit more. Let's fire this rose up here a little bit more. And we just show you. So I put some of that color on, and you go, oh, it's not smooth. No, but it can be. I can take just a damp brush and just pull right through it. Just damp. And it has to be this soft, this fusion brush, this soft brush. See, I can pull right through it and blend that in. Wipe some of that extra color out of there and just pull through and soften that in. So I don't always like to pull in the same direction. So you'll see me sometimes pull across like that. I love those kinds of looks. I like the rose to be a little choppy like that. That's how I like it. But it's your rose. It can be anything you want. You can start to redraw some of these a bit. right in here, right? You can put a little more light. I like small light petals like that. Everything. I'm always watching though that bowl. Don't lose the bowl of your rose. So now look at the colors you got going in there. I can take some soft lights and maybe open this one up over here a little bit, put a few little light colors right out like that. So the edge of that rose opens up. There's all kinds of ways. I'm getting a little advanced here. Some of you are getting scared, but and I just like to show you guys the possibilities, right? And the first thing that we're going to concentrate on is to get over our fear of acrylics, right? Get over the fear of them. And so if you want to add a leaf or something to this, leaves, I love the olive green leaves, which comes from the black and the Hansa yellow. And then, I mean, in paintings like this, these kinds of leaves look great. And so you just put those on and you can lighten them up. Add a little bit of white. When I add a little bit of white, I always add a little bit of yellow to that color to really pump it up a little bit more. But you can just pull in a light and a dark side to it right there. Simple. Keep it simple. You can add a little red to it, which causes it to tone down a little bit more. Maybe a little darker over here on the shadow side. Keep it simple. This is some of your first stuff. But that's kind of a complicated rose. But if you watch when I'm doing it here, what I wanted to do with this is show you how to get over the fear of acrylics. Because acrylics can do a lot. If you understand that water is the solvent for the acrylics and you have a couple hours, you have at least a good hour to do it. So this is what I call negative painting. So I can come in here and really push out the edge of that rose just with a little bit of the green color. So now you got this color of rose here. And it's really kind of a pretty one, just a little bit of the dark. And I could put more leaves. I can quickly put another rose, like right over here. And you can start the same type of way. Let's just use water. It's going to dry, but we're not going to worry about it. We'll just come right over here. We'll maybe make more of a rose bud. Let me just paint this real fast right here, right? We'll have the stem and stuff coming out for that. Inside the rose goes what? The dark, so we look for and I want a rosebud, so I'm going to oval this up a bit more. And then the shadow. So the center and the shadow. Does that make sense? And you already start to see the rose, right? Hopefully, start to see the rose. Let's put a little red in with that. Here. A little different. A rosebud will start out a little darker. The petals of the rose get lighter as they get sun bleached. So we'll start with that, right? Let's take a little bit of our light. Let's go just a touch orange. Let's put a little bit of orange into that like we did the other one. Maybe a bit more orange. We'll put orange around. So that goes in, right? So what I'm first concentrating on when I'm doing a rose like this is color. Putting in color. Now we'll strike the main front of the rose here. Right? Maybe a little bit of the shadow side, so I'll add this a little darker over to the shadow side. Right? Boom. And then I'll come over here and we'll make a soft white that I can draw the petals on, looking for where that calyx is going to go. So I draw some of the petals. We'll draw this petal on here. I'll put this one right on top of that other rose. Right in there. I can soften that, blend it out, but like you see, I don't really need to worry, and you'll learn after you do about a dozen of these, you'll learn you don't have to worry about that for a while if you're going to put on more color. Just get some more color in there. Right? Get some color in there and work on that. And let's just get some of this, add some more white, add the white in on an edge here. And so I'm painting this completely acrylic, and I do like it to dry up a bit, and this painting it this fast is not drying up. So I do like it to dry up a bit. It's easier if it dries up a bit. But when you got here, you can use the water, or you can, what you'll see me do in several videos is I'll push with my finger while the color's wet. I like to do that as well. I'll push with my finger to do what I call incorporate the color in there, see? So I can take this edge here and I can really push that light petal right up on top of that other rose right there, see? And then I'll maybe build some more petals down the front of the rose here. Let's put a little more light in here, right into the front of the rose. And try not to get, I'm going to close this up a bit more here, just boom. And as you paint more and more and more, you'll get more comfortable with the shape of the rose, the 3 circles of the rose, and your roses will get prettier and faster. But if you're worried about it drying as an acrylic, don't worry about it drying as an acrylic. Okay, because you can use the water. See, I'm going to restate some of the bowl here. Maybe just rinse that with some water here real quick. Soft brush, very little pressure, very little pressure. And I can blend some of that in. See? Boom, there it is, soft, blended in. See? And I haven't used anything to slow down, letting it kind of dry. Let's get a little more light. Maybe let's put another little petal right here, right up against the edge of that bowl. Let's put a lighter stroke, maybe some of this background like I've used before, right in there to say there's the front of that little rose there like that. And that's kind of pretty. I would like maybe a little orange or so right down in here. A little orange or so right down in there. Say that's part of the bowl right there. A little bit of that orange. It's kind of pretty. A little yellow, orange. And this is what I like is after you learn the structure, we have a lot of lessons. We have a lot of lessons, and I'm going to show you a lot of things. But what I want you to do is just, even if you just paint a ball, okay, and maybe a ball with some petals, and you just practice getting that color on and then using that water, learning that water. Because if you use that water too much or something like that, you can pull a hole all the way through the rose. And so you want to learn how to use just a little bit of water to soften. Let's build this petal up right there. This comes down like that. Soft gray, a little bit of reds here. Softer edge, darker side of the rose there. Doesn't need to be that much. Just a little bit of orange and some of the dark, softer little color in there. A lot of times I like to just soften the edge with my finger. I don't, go wild and crazy with things. I just like a little softness with the finger there. Okay, and just like that. Put a bit of that in there. That's kind of pretty. Maybe keep wanting to touch that. It's good to take it. So this is a cap of extender, and I'm going to show you after we do a few of these with water. I'm going to show you how to do it with extender, and it's going to be light years easier. But I don't want you to go there yet. I want you to develop the skills of working in acrylic. Then we're going to slow it down, and you're going to have more time to develop the structure of the rose. Does that make sense? So we don't want to touch that. I just want to touch a little bit of the water. See, I can paint them both because I struggled with acrylics for years trying to get them to do oil painting techniques. And now I can. So see, I can soften that out. I have a little bit of water on my finger. And if I leave that little bit of water on my finger, I can soften right through and do another rose there. That's kind of a pretty one too. I'd even like these little sparks of color there. But I could add some more, do some more things, add some, I can come back. Let me show you. This one up here is dry. See, it's dry. And I can let me put a little orange in there just to show you. Right? Just to show you guys. This is, and so I'll take a little orange and let me just drop some of that in there like that, right? Ooh, that's kind of pretty bright little color there. Then I can just take some water, clean that out of your brush. Just take just a little bit. One reason why I like the paper towels, like just do that real quick sometimes. And see, I can just soften that color into everything I'm doing here just with that water. Push that in, see? And I can bring back that highlight there like that, push that in, that color in there. Or I can take that orange, put a little bit of light in on the edge of it. Just a little bit of light. And this is what I call sinking the orange into the petal, is I'll push the light on top of it and it sinks that orange into the petal. Maybe a little red right down in there. We'll just push that in. Isn't that kind of pretty? And it gives a different look to that little orange, to that rose. Let's put a little yellow orange right in there. That's kind of pretty. See, it's wet enough there, I can just hit it a couple times. Maybe just a touch of that light right in there. Pull it down. Now, if I want to get rid of that right there, I'll rinse my brush. Right? You can let that dry for a while. You don't have to hit it right away. You don't have to do it while it's wet. Does that make sense? And let it dry up a little bit. Then just a tiny bit of water. Find the shape of the bowl and just pull the bowl. And it'll incorporate it right there. See? Just like that. Let's put a touch more right in the front, right across the front. Boom. Yeah, I like that. A couple of little lights right there. Now, I violated the rose. The bowl. Some of you are going, you really kind of screwed that up. Well, no, I'm going to take just a little bit of water and I'm just going to pull the bowl, the roundness of the bowl here, right like that. And so you'll see a little bit of that bowl in there. And that works. Now, this right here is where I used just too much water and started to cut through it. So I let it dry up a bit, or I can come back and just tap in a little bit of the darker color and I'll bring that bowl back up. Let's put just a bit of the violet into that and push that over to this side here too. I like that roughness. I don't like it to be absolutely smooth. I like the spontaneity of alla prima, what we call alla prima in painting. I like that. So I like to leave a few brush marks and interest like that. But there's a pretty little rose here, and you can play with it. The thing is, with the heritage, it's very sensitive to that water. Okay, that's why we use a soft brush and a very light touch and very little water, because when you have it like that and it's very soft, it's a soft acrylic for a couple hours. It is a soft acrylic, and then it will dry concrete hard. But for a couple hours, it's very soft, and it's designed to do that so we can do some of these like little blending techniques and stuff. And we use just water. But then later on, we're going to use this stuff, and you're going to go, wow, there's a huge difference. If I can get you to paint like this, I like that little light right there. If I can get you to paint like this, then when we switch over to the others, you're going to see a huge difference. A huge difference. There we go. Something like that. Leave that bowl. I like that. That one came out kind of nice. So there you've got a couple different ways to paint that rose, and you can put petals and more. You can put more leaves and all kinds of stuff. You can make it into a painting, but I want you to do about 15 or so of these, trying it just like this, learning how to use it. Now, when you look at that now, You look at that, see, it looks like it's very blended and stuff, and it's not. And what we did it with was water. And I can even take just the water on my brush. See how I can, it'll take a second to work that through, but I can slowly start to soften that. You see it picking up color. I can soften that area, pull through, get rid of that little bump there that's in the rose. I might even, it's been an hour, but I might even be able to take some of this right off if I push on it. Yeah, see? Boom, take that off, soften that one off as well. I don't want to soften it completely because I like that little ruffle on it. But you can push it back, see? And so you can water. The acrylics are all based around the water. And so, you know, as we develop ourselves as an artist, we're going to show you how to do a lot of different things. And I'm going to paint a tray over here and really show you how you can fly with it. But what's very important is later on in all of these lessons, if you're working on something and something dries, you can always fall back to your acrylic techniques and fix it. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm going to start you out pure acrylic without using any of those wonderful mediums and stuff. So that when you get yourself into, you're going to practice these acrylics, practice using the water, get used to it drying as a paint, and then show you how to fix it, okay? And it can be done. And you can paint a pretty rose here. Now, your first roses are not going to look like that, okay? They're not. What's going to happen, guys, is you're going to get too white. Your roses are going to get too white. That's what everybody does. That's what I did. We get too white. And so, you're going to have to learn. Look at all these colors here that I have here, right? Let me show you something. Here's white. I did not, in the painting of those roses, go anywhere near white. Do you see that? That is the problem that a lot of beginning artists do. They go too white too fast. The camera makes it look white, but I am not white. See? I am not white. I am nowhere near white. Okay? And so this background that I push down there, look at how those roses calm it down, and it makes a very interesting background. But I am nowhere near white. So don't get too much white. Don't get too white. We all get white. We will all go there, right? But we don't need to go that way. Okay, so there you got that, all right? That gives you an idea of, how to work with some acrylic. I made kind of a complicated one. There's easier ones out there, but I want you to start acrylic. Start acrylic, and then we'll introduce some of the mediums and stuff with it. Learn how to control, watch it dry, learn how to manipulate the edge of the heritage acrylics so that they soften. Does that make sense? You got to learn how to use it as an acrylic. Then we'll take it from there. All right? All right. So I'm starting up the lessons here on this channel. I'm going to be doing a lot of this stuff I'm going to show you. And we'll do some other things like rocks and water and all that kind of stuff. Acrylic and modified acrylic techniques with the extender and open medium and stuff. But starting acrylic is where I really want everybody to go, okay? All right, so if you have any comments or anything, hit them down below. Over on the other channel, we'll be moving some of those videos over here too. I have an entire series of roses, beginning roses, and you can watch some of those. But and you can try some of the different mediums, but I want you to learn acrylic first, because then everything else is easier, okay? All right, I'll see you guys on another one. I'll try to add a couple lessons a week here to this, like this, on this channel. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to hit subscribe and help us out by, telling all your friends and posting it on social media and stuff. Go over and paint with this guy. He's a nut. Something like that, okay? Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you on the next one. And we're going to go paint that tray, too. All right, see you later.